Oh gosh. So anyway, I met these guys first at Power Shift. Christian and Teresa were there for sure. I'm not sure about Ben. Yep. It's been a long time ago. I think you were. Mm-hmm. And it just, I'm really grateful that they remembered what was going on in our community and that they were still concerned about it to work on. Because for a lot of people, this stuff is just like out of sight, out of mind. They have no idea where their electricity is coming from or what it's costing people in human terms. I live in Meigs County, Ohio, on a farm that's been in my family for 7 generations. We're 9th generation Appalachian, but we've lived on that piece of land for 9 generations, for 7 generations. And this is a picture of our family's homestead. It was the first house that was on our land. That's my grandpa in a little dress. This was my Aunt Ada. She taught in one room schoolhouse down at the edge of the farm. And that house is gone now. I live in a house that my grandpa built for my grandma when they got married in 1936. He built a house for his mom first, and then he built the house that I live in for my grandma. He didn't want 2 women in the same kitchen. He's kind of smart for his age. And so anyway, I moved there in 2000 after my grandma died. And to me it was like I had a lot of pride about the generational value of the land and how long our family had lived there and the family history. And I was planning on doing a lot of stuff with family genealogy, and I wanted to start a sustainable living and teaching center because I had a lot to learn. And to me, that's the best way to learn, is to create opportunities for all of you to learn together. And I was there for just about a year, and I started to get concerned because the prayer list at church just kept getting bigger and bigger with people that had cancer. I lost 6 immediate neighbors to cancer, and if you were talking about a half-mile away from you in a city, it might be different if you have like big apartment buildings and stuff like that. But like our farm is 144 acres, and the next farm is like 100 acres, and so it's very sparsely populated. So even though you're talking about a half mile, there aren't very many homes and families within that half mile, and it just didn't make any sense to me because we live like maybe an hour away from any kind of big industry or another big city. And I couldn't figure out what was making people so sick. And so I started looking around for answers. And it's kind of funny, like I was telling the kids that we were talking with earlier today, I don't want to say kids, but when you get to be my age, everybody that's younger than you seems like a kid. Even though these power plants had been there the whole time, that I was visiting my grandparents growing up over the summers and stuff, it didn't really sink in what they were or how they were affecting us. It's like when you see something every day, you don't think about it because it's just like an object that's there. I don't know how to describe it exactly, but it's like it's not in your consciousness. And I asked an epidemiologist to come down because I knew that the kind of statistics, I don't want to say statistics, but I knew that the number of my neighbors that were getting sick and dying was not normal. And I wanted to see what his take was on it. And so he went around and counted death statistics, and I'm not talking incidents, I'm talking death. There's a difference between the two. And one of the reasons that we have more people die from cancer is because we don't have access to medical care. We don't have a hospital in our whole county. If your kid gets an asthma attack, and Ohio has the worst air quality in the nation, within that state, our county has the worst asthma rate in the state. And our children are the least likely to be insured. And we don't have an emergency room within 45 minutes. So, with that, just put together the whole picture, it's not real pretty. But he was telling me that when he looked at the death statistics in our county and the 5 counties around us, that we were about double what he would expect to see. But we didn't qualify. I said, can we get some kind of a study? Because at that point I was thinking that was the route to go. And he said, no, he said, because to get a cancer cluster study, which is what they do, you have to have one kind of cancer that's elevated. He said, all of the cancers are elevated. And so I'm like, so you're telling me that we don't qualify for a study because we have more cancers and they're all elevated? It didn't make any sense to me. And I said, well, can you push for a different kind of health study? And he said, no. He said, I'll try. He said, there isn't anything that currently exists. He said, but, the Department of Health and the Ohio EPA are kind of like 2 legs on a person. And neither one of them wants to kick the one out from underneath the other one. And he said it would be really, really political to try and get a study done like that. And I learned from other people who had pushed and pushed for health studies that sometimes that's not necessarily the best route to go, because the way that numbers are manipulated, it can come out looking like there's not a problem when there is. but I know what I'm seeing in my community, and it's not right. I mean, just we've got farmers there who have got cows dying of cancer. It's not just the people. My dog died of cancer. My best friend, when she got breast cancer, her dog died of lymphoma. I was the last person to see her be alive, and she was in Chicago getting her chemo when her dog died. And she just called me on Monday. She moved away to Massachusetts because her oncologist told her that if she wanted to stay healthy after she had been declared cancer-free, that she really needed to move out of the area. She needed to move away from what was making her sick. And she called me on Monday and said that her other dog, Lizzie, just died. And so it's not just people, it's the animals. We're seeing a lot of deer getting cancer. People where I live still hunt to eat deer for meat. I know we have a lot of vegans here, and I don't mean to offend anybody. But they like shut down school the first day of deer hunting season because it's a really big deal. Right? I thought they were kidding when I first moved there, but it's the truth. And so anyway, it's really affecting us like from the bottom up. So anyway, with the coal-fired power plants, I feel the same way. This is over at Cheshire, and this is technically in Gallia County. These are two power plants just up the road from us. It's like a 20-minute drive if you go like this around there. But if you just measure it from one point to the other, it's about 10 miles from us. And I can show you pictures here with the emissions. If 10 miles sounds like a big distance, you know, I'll show you pictures of the emissions, what it looks like blowing across us. And the majority of the particulates from a power plant fall within 15. We have 4 miles within 11.5 miles, and the majority of the particulates from all of those fall within 15. There was a student from Morgantown University that did some research and said that we were the second largest concentration of coal-fired power plants in the nation. His community had 5, we have 4. The EPA will kind of balk at that because these other 2 power plants that you see right here, I live on this side of the river right here. It might be better if I pointed with this little arrow instead of my big old finger. But I live right on this side of the river, and right here is West Virginia. And what that means to the people in the regulatory agencies is that it's different counties, it's different states, and it's different EPA regions. Because everybody on this side of the line is in Region 5, and everybody down here is in Region 3. And so when they look at cumulative impacts, this is where it stops. And so they don't count for the people up here what's coming across here. The ones in West Virginia are actually closer to us. So about the time that I woke up that, you know, this was probably what was making us sick, I found out that they wanted to build 5 more power plants, which is really insane. 9 power plants in an 11.5 mile radius. They wanted to put 2 of them here. They wanted to put 1 right down here and 2 more right here. And I just knew that that wasn't going to work. Like, if we were already dying, you know, how much worse would it be? I'll show you a picture of a chart that the Clean Air Task Force did. I can figure out my computer. I'm not very good at this. Let's see. We'll go back here. But I keep thinking I'll be able to find some college kids that'll help me do a PowerPoint.
If you just asked, we would have helped you.
Well, before I go home.
Yeah.
Yeah. Aren't they amazing? So anyway, this is the latest picture. I had another one. I have one of these from 2002, and in that one, this area looked like our area. It was like red with some purple specks, which are like the highest percentage of premature deaths from particulate exposure. And the difference between us and them is a governor. they got this governor who changed the way that they get their electricity and started refusing to buy coal-fired power from even outside of California. And their end of the map totally changed. They went from being down here to being up here. What do you think is going to happen here if they build 5 more power plants? They'll have to make more categories because we're already in the highest death rate category that you can be in. I think it's estimated that about 30,000 people a year die premature deaths from power plant exposure. And if you look at that, you can take a guess at where some of those 30,000 might be.